to show too brightly compared to the rest of it. So using a really light tone and just brushing it in, building it up. Again, these lighter valued colors, they don't go in as easy as like a black or a concentrate does, but you know, just you just build them up, and when it's at where it's at, then you just move on to the next area. You come back, look at it in 5 minutes, and see if it needs another pass. If not, then good. You keep going on. So, I think our background's good, and if so, we'll just get up to this first petal of this orchid and get busy. So I'm coming through with some black right here, and I'm gonna start building up my depths from the inside of the flower out. Just turning the mag on the side and using the edge of the 9 mag just to get some lines and some texture. If you watch my black and gray DVD, you'll see that a lot of the times I start my pieces, if it's a really light piece, I'll start with a really light wash, and I'll work my way up and then add the blacks in. But when I'm doing color, is always consistent the same way. I will come through with my darkest value of my black or my concentrate, and I'll start pushing my way off into the next color. And at the end, if I need to get back in there and add a little bit of darks, then I will. But I'm really trying to go from the darkest value to the light, because with color, it's not, you don't just brush it off like you would black and gray. You have to come through. If I was doing a black and gray piece right here, I would just come through with my black, and then I would just kind of brush in my light tones and build them up. But being that we're coming through with a color piece, we come through with our black, and then we're coming through right here with some plum, and then we're going to push that off into our magentas and our pinks and our yellows. I can't just push that off into, like as I would with the black and gray piece, with a little bit of water and thin it out, because it won't look good that way. So we came through with some black into some plum, and now I'm pushing some burnt orange right off that 30% that we loosened up. This flower right here is going to be a lot of layering. You're going to see me coming through. I'm not spending a lot of time on the skin. I'm not really pushing hard. I'm just kind of brushing in that color, and then I'm going to get on to the next one. You're going to see a lot of layering where I'm going to be going over colors that I already did with maybe a lighter color or a darker color, or mixing. And that's the way I do my color. I've seen some artists that get in there and just know exactly what exact color they want, and get in there and move on to the next. But I like to get some really smooth blends when I'm doing color pieces. So I do a lot of layering. I'll come through and I'll put down my darks, and I'll put down my mids and my lights, and then I might go back over that with another color just to introduce maybe some cools over some warms, or vice versa. So you're gonna see a lot of it going on, and hopefully you can use a little bit of this in your style of tattooing and see some really nice results. Again, I'm rinsing off into the warm rinse cup instead of the cool. Getting back in here and introducing a little bit of true, no, that's really red. Not really paying attention to any part of my reference except the piece that I'm working on right now. Once I get that done, then as I move to the next piece, I can look at it and make sure that nothing needs touched up or to be hit again. Coming through with just a regular orange now. It's a nice bright orange. Really getting a nice contrast with that cool blue with the green background with the leaves, and then the bright oranges and reds with the plum coming off. already being able to, see some really nice warms and cools in this piece. And that's why I picked the blue for the background. I figured there are some cools in this flower, and you'll see like, when I introduce the purples and the blues and a little bit of the greens up top, but for the most part, it's a warm piece, and so I wanted to keep the background nice and cool. Cools being, blues, purples, greens, and the different colors that go along with those, and warms being the reds, orange, and yellows, and the other colors that go along with those also. Still using the 9 mag because of how small this leaf is. Making sure not to put too much ink in that area where, as you can see where the glare is, the petal comes up. Accidentally hit my rinse cup in the cool one, but it happens. Using a lot of the corner of the mag right there, not really using the flat 9, just turning it on its side and using those 2 needles on the edge right there. Coming through with a little bit of purple, just to cool out the edge coming from the inside of the flower. So we've already came through with some black and some plum into some red with a little bit of burnt orange and just layering a little bit of purple on top. And you could definitely see that there's a lot of tones in there, and that's what we're going for. Introducing a little bit of that avocado green right next to that orange. The avocado green is kind of like a greenish yellow, and it's a really muted color. So yeah, I use it a lot in my pieces. It still appears kind of warm when you do it next to it, but you can see it still it just introduces enough coolness that it really contrasts nicely. A lot of people when I they come in to get a flower or some kind of color piece from me at the shop, they're like, yeah, I just want a red rose or something, and then they kind of freak out when I pull out 15, 20 caps. But my theory is I'd rather have it there and throw it away at the end without touching it than to be sitting here wishing I had it and stopping, because I really feel it's all about energy. If I'm sitting there tattooing, I'm in the zone. I got a nice power unit where I step on the foot pedal and it goes, and I don't have to worry about where my foot pedal is until I want to stop it again. I just step on it again. I got that from Critical. I got the really big foot pedal from Icon. It's $100 foot pedal. And majority of foot pedals are like $15 or so, but I think it's really important when you're tattooing to be focused on what you're doing instead of wondering where your foot pedal is. Now you have to stop and look for it. Maybe it's a foot away or something, or it's just little things like that that really help me to concentrate on tattooing instead of concentrate on all the other things that I really shouldn't be worried about right now. And it's the same thing with ink. Pull out all the colors that you might need, and if you don't need them at the end, so what? But if you do, and it's not there, then you got to stop. Take your gloves off, pull out another cap, and it's just it's another. It might only take 2 or 3 minutes, but still, it just sidetracks you and it gets you off your focus of the tattoo. So I'm introducing some golden yellow right here just to really bring out some warms. This is the brightest color we'll have here besides the white. Really starting to see some nice tones of colors in this piece. I probably could have done it with three different colors, but you definitely want to see that much of a contrast with the colors. That there's like 8 or 9 different colors in there right now, and it's starting to look really nice. Another thing that I do that might not be true to my reference is I like to use colors that are on the other side of the color spectrum. So if I'm coming through with some oranges in the pieces like predominantly orange and yellow, I might come through and just brush on a little bit of purple, and that's on the other side of the color wheel. So it really contrasts with the piece and brings a really nice cool into the warm piece. And that goes for any other color. If you're gonna start doing color tattoos, or if you're already doing them, I think the first thing you do is really learn about your color theory and understand, how these colors will complement these or different values. And it's something that I've recently learned maybe about a year ago, and my coworker really taught me a lot as far as how color goes. I didn't know. I was very timid, didn't know much about it. I understood how to use it as far as like different style of saturating the piece instead of leaving a lot of blank areas, even if you feel like you can leave it blank, just to bring in a flesh tone or a white. But once I learned the color theory and read some books and studied up on it, it really changed my outlook on it. I hear a lot of people saying they don't like doing color, and I was one that said it for years and years. People would say, "Oh, how much for a color piece?" And I would just bid it like outrageously priced. That way, I didn't have to do it because I was timid. I was comfortable with my black and gray. But eventually, you do need to learn it, and you do need to step up your game. So do a little bit of homework at home. Read a couple books. I read that color book by Betty Edwards. It was one of the best books I ever read in my life, and it really taught me a lot as far as how the color wheel works and how you can the warms and cools and how they complement and contrast. So this pedal's probably, I'd say, about 85% done, 90% done. I'm gonna brush over just a little bit of tangerine just to bring it some more bright uh, orangish red color out of it, and then we're gonna jump up and start working on this next one. This is what I do. I'll get to the point where I think it looks good, and instead of really worried about it, I'm gonna go on to the next one because as more of the tattoo comes to life, it's definitely gonna let me know if that pedal is ready or if it is not. Now, being that I put the yellow in already on the bottom pedal, I'm being really careful as I put this black in, or this purple. Yeah, this is black. That I'm not wiping it over the yellow, as I was talking about earlier, because I can definitely mud up my yellows and my lighter tones, like the lighter flesh tone and the peach that I pushed in earlier. So I'm just using a lot of A&D, and as I'm going, I'm kind of dabbing it and wiping it down just to make sure I don't get the yellow or the black mudded up into the yellow. Again, I'm coming through with that black first and introducing some plum. Plum's a nice color. It's like a reddish purple with a little bit of brown tone to it. I use it a lot for my warm flowers, just to build some contrast instead of pushing in some black. Sometimes I'll come through if I want a really contrasting piece, and I'll introduce some blue or purple concentrate, and then bring in my dark magentas or my blood reds, whatever colors I'm going through. But there's going to be a lot of contrasting in this piece already, so I'm just following my reference and pushing in my plum off the black. Again, I gave it a couple minutes. Notice that it needed a little bit more of that. What color are we using right? Oh, dark magenta. And I was able to see that just by adding a little bit of black and some plum up on the right pedal right there. Here I'm coming through with the 9 mag using Really Red by Eternal. It's a really nice color, nice and bright. And as you can see, I'm moving my hand fairly quick. I'm not spending a lot of time in the skin. I'm not really trying to fully saturate it right now. I'm just brushing it over so that I don't want to damage the skin too much based on the fact that there are a lot of colors going into this piece. So I'm just kind of brushing it in. That way, if I do need to layer another color over it, and that's how this tattoo is gonna be done. It's gonna be done with a lot of layers and a lot of different colors. You're gonna see it. It's hard to look at a piece and say, okay, well, this needs this tone right here and this tone right here and this tone right here. A lot of times you just have to build it up, and and that's my style when I'm doing, a realistic color tattoo like this with so many various different tones in it. I'm just gonna go through and put down the base tones that I can see, and then I'm just gonna start layering with other colors and creating the tones that are needed. Wipe it down so we can see how it's looking, and definitely getting some really nice contrast between the warms and the cools from the background. Coming through with some more plums to add some more depth to the inside of that petal. Again, not really spending too much time in the skin, just brushing it in. Coming through like a mid magenta. I got the light and the dark, and I dipped into both. Just get a nice little medium. Blending that off into some tangerine now. It's a really vibrant color. It's really bright. It really plays into introducing some really warm oranges reds. Yeah, I've seen it healed up, and it is amazing. I think another thing as far as being comfortable with tattooing is really building up your color palette. I think one of the things when I was timid about and scared about doing color tattoos was I had about maybe 15 different colors. Most of them were just the basic colors, and I wouldn't really understand how to mix this with that to create the tone that was needed. And I think now I have my color palette's about 70 different tones, 70 different colors, and I can pull them out, and with the different tones and different shades, I can mix and match and practically make almost every single color that I need. Introducing some more of that avocado green on the edge, which is that greenish yellow muted tone I was telling you about. Some people, it depends on what company you get. Some people call it nuclear green or avocado or artichoke, but it's practically pretty much the same tone all the way through. Definitely dries up. It's one of the fastest drying up tattoo inks that I have. So we're gonna be spending a lot of time. Uh, Sometimes I just put a little drop of witch hazel on top, and that'll help keeping the top layer from getting dry. Otherwise, I just dip in there, dip in my water, or vice versa. A lot of times I'll have to, get halfway through that cap and throw it away and start it again. But as you see right there, I got into the grain and got into the rinse cup, and it's flowing really nicely over the skin. Again, still coming through with that avocado green. Using a lot of the corner of the 9 mag right there to get in some tight areas. I really like using that with warm tones because it's even though it is a cool tone, it's almost like a warm tone because of all the yellow that's in there also. And then you kind of just layer on your cooler tones right next to it and above it, and you get a really nice smooth blend from a warm to cool transition, which is what we're looking for right here. I constantly am telling people about building things up and getting that smooth blend, but if you want a piece to really work, then this is how you do it. So you see how I'm just introducing a little bit of that avocado green over the tangerine and the plum that we did earlier, and we're getting a really nice blend. All right, so now that I've introduced a little bit of our cool foundation, I'm gonna get back in here with some flamingo pink, which is flamingo pink is a really vibrant color too. It's almost like the tangerine, but just a little more pink to it, not as much orange. I'm just gonna brush that in certain areas where I feel it need it. Again, not spending a lot of time in the skin, just gonna brushing it in, layering, almost like painting. back into some tangerine. Those two colors work really nice together. You can really see the difference when they're healed. Some golden yellow with some lime green. And we're just introducing a little bit more of those cool tones into the piece. I think one of the things that was hardest for me to learn when I was doing color was that it just gets so messy. You know, you have to spend so many times wiping, and especially on a piece like this where we're doing so many different tones. It's not just, you know, a red heart with a little bit of, you know, a green ribbon or something. Like this is a realistic flower with, I'd say, 30 different variations of colors going through it. And you know, it's a little overwhelming at first, but you know, as I'm going through this, I'm looking at it, I'm breaking it down into sections, like this petal and that petal, and then as I'm getting to that petal, I'm breaking that down into different, you know, just layers. Like, okay, I'm gonna start with this black and the plum, then I'm gonna come through with some tangerine and some Georgia peach. Then I'm gonna come to the cool side, and I'm gonna introduce some avocado, and start pushing some lime green, and some more of that you know, light blue, and just work our way up from there. So, you know, as long as you don't get overwhelmed, and you're taking your time, and just concentrating and looking at your reference, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna follow my reference to a T exactly because I really want some more higher contrast in this piece. This is what I kind of practice. So I might bring the values up a little bit, introduce a little bit more greens or a little bit darker tones on certain areas, but for the most part, you know, this is my guideline. This is what I'm going off, is that reference to the right of it. And you know, it's gonna look fairly, you know, similar to it. It might look a little bit brighter or a little more bolder in some areas, but for the most part, you know, this is what I'm going off of. And you know, if you're learning color tattooing, then I would definitely suggest trying something a little more simple. But you know, this is just giving you some ideas as how to introduce different tones and mix and match with different shades and how to layer. So I'm coming through with, I just introduced some more golden yellow, and I'm coming through with some burnt orange right now. Just using the side of the mag, just kind of brushing a little bit of texture on the inside of that petal. Again, I'm just turning it on its side and using those two needles at the edge, just starting to build up that bottom shadow for where the petal kind of folds over up in the top right. You can see in the reference right here. Coming back in with a little bit of icy blue. And I'm just barely brushing it over some of those greens right there.